Okay, now things are looking better here. We're looking outside in the Tupelo area. Apologize for the audio issue we had a moment ago there as we're looking out of our Tupelo tower cam. You have that camera bouncing around a bit there. Again, appreciate the good folks at Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling for sponsoring us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Apologize for the get up. I've been running around doing different things all day long here, getting ready for just some behind the scenes stuff. But Storm Prediction Center, Norman, Oklahoma, going ahead and putting out a severe weather risk for today, level 1 out of 5. Not expecting to have significant severe weather chances, but that measure of moisture coming up a bit and maybe an isolated wind report, not an impossibility out of what we end up seeing here. Again, this camera, most of our cameras at this time, just again showing up with a lot of cloud cover out there. We look back towards, say, Winona, for example, back out in the Delta. There's a bit more moisture that direction, kind of funneling into this there. That dew point at 59. If you go all the way south there to Rolling Fork, back closer to kind of a frontal boundary that'll bring us some chances for rainfall today. Hold on, that one does not look like that camera is updating. We'll double check. The data on it is updating. That cannot be current. No, but I want to look at the data here. That's what I'm mainly showing, at the 62-degree temperature coming in the Rolling Fork area at this time. So out in the Delta, as far as the dew point is concerned, there's more moisture there kind of funneling into this. I just keep choosing poorly there. 61, the dew point, though, in the Greenwood area. Again, waiting for that camera to kind of come back up. We'll look at that in more detail here in a minute. I'll bring you over to the chroma key. We'll kind of show you the way we typically sort of look at this. We'll kind of run our graphic system here for a moment. Again, that severe weather risk, let's go and plot that on the map here for you. Showing that in effect for today. And you'll note here it does include the entire area. So this is something they left off last night and have kind of expanded. Even this morning didn't have it on there, showing up now for the potential for a couple of thunderstorms to get a little bit stronger as we go through the day. Let's talk about the different severe weather criteria here. Tornadoes, again, a non-existent possibility. You know, some of our projections last night, they almost kind of look like some mini supercells there. Not expecting a lot of tornadoes. It wouldn't be shocked to have 0. But the fact that we have maybe a few of these storms getting a little stronger, and there could be a little bit of spin with them, I think that's the reason why they're going ahead and including them in there. More likely to see damaging winds, but even then, we're talking a very limited number of reports on anything, and large hail not likely a factor that we're dealing with on this. So let's talk day planner here. Let's talk timing for a moment. Again, the coverage of rainfall increasing as we go into the afternoon and the early part of the evening. Most of this out of here beyond really 7 p.m. or so. So it's really probably the next 5 or 6 hours if we're going to see something a little stronger, that would be the most likely time frame for that to happen. And still some questions as that. We'll look at that in more detail here in just a moment. So here's kind of the broader look at Futurecast. We're going to look at a few different things related to this as well. So as you can see on this latest kind of look here, have that front, that's one of the components. And as we talked about last night, 5 and 6 o'clock, and then Gabe also talked about 10 o'clock, some of our projections do have at least some what look like mini sort of supercells, mini sort of rotating thunderstorms here. You can see between now and 4:30, more of those starting to develop. And we'll look at the latest version of Mississippi Live Weather Radar here in a moment to kind of show that off as well. But you'll notice that the majority of that activity, if it's going to be stronger, is a little ahead of that front. So that to give you kind of an idea on a time frame here. Most of this out of here, anything stronger by around 6 p.m. or so. That's certainly east of the Natchez Trace Parkway by that point in time. So it does mean as we go into this evening, the main threats gradually out of here beyond that point, and maybe a few thunderstorms even a little stronger out there into Alabama with this as that gradually moves on out of here. So if you'll pardon the fact that this is not going to look terribly pretty, we're going to look through a bunch of different graphics here to kind of talk through what we're looking at for a moment. So I'm going to populate this with a different storyboard that I know has everything I need in it. So I'm going to bring in my regular show here for a moment. So that would be Matt, and I'll bring AB Combo. Clear that, drop that in. Just a moment for that to start populating in there. So we can kind of show the nitty gritty sort of stuff on that. So abort, and the wider shot here for a moment. You can kind of see some of the players. Again, there's that front right now, and we don't have a lot of activity out there at this moment. We're still kind of waiting for the moisture to sort of kind of fill in, or for shower chances to fill in. So they have this initial round here this morning that's gradually sliding away, and then kind of this will be the zone where storms start developing and get a little heavier along that as we go into this afternoon. So still kind of waiting on that. Another way to kind of show one of those things that we're looking at is that dew point, that measure of moisture based on kind of the same scale as the temperature there. So let's get that going. There's that loop. And so pull in those dew points, because this is kind of the critical factor on this. Where there's more moisture, there's more fuel. You can see clearly there's more fuel down south. It's that combination moisture and heating that kind of gets it. But I think there's just enough there, and as we talked about last night, maybe just this little nose of moisture that we get the right stuff in the right spot to get a couple of those storms a little stronger, maybe a couple rotating thunderstorms out there. But I'm also kind of watching what everyone's sort of saying on the Facebook chat, so give me a moment. Of course, everyone wants to know about their specific city. I get that there. Let me get that down here. Okay, so yeah, just kind of wanting to know about timing, so we'll talk more about that. So again, there's where it is, and this is that moisture kind of heading northward now. So let's look at kind of one of the projections. This will also have the front on there, kind of picking it up right now. This is what our HRRR model, and I'm going to pull off that surface analysis that you see here for a moment, that front. Just because I think we kind of can show that in here. But you'll notice how really between now and 1 o'clock, we start to see a few more thunderstorms developing near the Mississippi River and out here into the Mississippi Delta. This is on the north edge of that nose of moisture. We were looking at that moisture a second ago, right? I think I should be able to kick it back and forth between these two things. Let's bring up national high-res dew points. And so this is that moisture, right? Bring it on the latest scan here. You just see it kind of comes to a point there in the Delta, just west of Grenada. So as we bring it back to the forecast model here for a moment, our forecast projection, same shot, it's kind of that same zone right here where that moisture is kind of heading northward. Okay, so as we go throughout the next couple of hours here, more storms will start developing there. You have that front coming in to add lift, the moisture nose already sort of there, and so that's where storms start to develop. 130 or so, these are all probably below severe limits at that point in time. But then they kind of increase. You'll see it just in kind of general size and darkness there. They increase. Now we have a lot depicted here. When you have storms on top of storms like this, typically they're all kind of fighting for a limited amount of moisture and fuel. And so that means that they overall end up somewhat more limited in their overall intensity. Hopefully that's the way this kind of ends up playing out here. 2:30, 3 o'clock, kids getting out from school. That's when storms are getting a little bit stronger. And I do show a couple of these kind of look sort of like mini supercells, like that one near Chula or the one near Ackerman or Louisville, or maybe even Bruce or Boonville up here. Again, just because they're rotating, and some could be, doesn't mean that we're talking about a situation where we're for sure going to talk about tornadoes or anything like that. Thankfully, that is probably not the way this plays out. But could one or two of these, that one near Guntown looks a little more interesting, but it's got this storm down here near Tupelo. So they're both fighting for the same fuel, and typically when they're fighting over the same fuel, neither one gets enough. So again, that's why they think they've kind of upgraded this. This is not a high threat by any stretch, but you can still see there that one near Pickensville at 5 o'clock, one out there Corguin, Russellville. A few of these are heavy enough to have some stronger wind gusts with them, maybe even a little rotation on those back out there into Alabama as well. We'll look at a couple different projections on this. I'm going to change this over to our strike model, and I just kind of want to see what it looks like on this. This is max reflectivity. So just that. There we go. And just to kind of check and see, it's, again, largely, well, it changed my color table on it. Give me a moment on that. Green star. There we go. Get that over and kind of lined up with what we had a second ago. Yeah, that underwhelmed would be a very nice way to put that there. It says, not going to happen like the HRRR model. Now, I do believe the HRRR model a little bit more. That's part of the reason why I lead with it. That's part of the reason why we tend to show it more often. I feel more confident on it. Maybe that's just because I have more experience with it. While we're saying that, though, let's see if we can check out a couple other things in here as well. We'll do our high-res NAM, and let's go. There's a couple things we'll do on this. Categorized precipitation, we'll start there. Then we're going to kind of look at the storm rotation, a little more detail on some of those different projections. So you see not much out there at this point, next few hours here, and then it gets a little stronger. I mean, similar spots to where the HRRR model does. When we get there closer to the right along the Natchez Trace Parkway, that's when that's a little more likely to possibly see a few of those getting somewhat stronger for some of the spots there. So yeah, that would be the time frame we'd be watching it. I think that's probably a pretty reasonable time frame on that as well. Give me a moment on my computer here behind the scenes. I need to pull up the same, see if he'll let me do this. So I can see the Facebook chat over here a little better. Scoot that over like that. There we go. Okay. So yeah, let's look at the rotation on these for a moment. Let's see, best way to do that would be UH, right? We'll do HRRR short UH. Okay. A lot of jargon going on there, but here's what this has. Again, not a lot of storms out there now. You can see how the storms get a little bit stronger. We show 2 to 3 o'clock, and a few of these do show some of that rotation that gets a little bit more sustained, like that one north of Oxford, the one here closer to Water Valley, and that one down toward Louisville. Now, are we talking tornadoes out of this? It's not impossible. I would say, confidence is low that we would have tornadoes, but I would say it's not impossible. I just don't know that we have enough moisture. It's a real uphill battle for us to have enough moisture in this situation. But you can see there's at least, full transparency, some of these showing some rotation to them. So I think the fact that they might be deep enough to kick out some rotation, possible that, they could produce a couple strong wind gusts. That's the reason the folks there at the Storm Prediction Center have kind of expanded that, or actually put out one of those limited risks. You see, there's not much out there at this point. This is all showing you the lack of fuel that we have in place. And again, to kind of show this back, and then we're going to go back to the other graphic in a second. For those that kind of joined us late, we have this limited level 1 severe weather risk that's in effect for most of Northeast Mississippi, most of the coverage area that we have here on Mississippi Live Weather. A tornado risk, when we start talking about, well, how likely is it for us to see something like that? 2%. Okay, what does that mean? That's 2% within a certain distance, a certain radius away from where storms could form. And so that's, again, not a high likelihood that we're talking about this here, what we would say a limited severe weather risk as far as tornado reports are concerned. And we're definitely not talking, I think this is kind of an important thing to make sure we don't miss here. We are not talking about strong tornadoes. Even in the worst case scenarios, you can see there is no strong tornado risk today. Maybe a brief spin up, not an impossibility out of this, but I just want to make sure that we are completely upfront about that. So again, not much out there now. Let's go then back over here to storm rotation. We're going to look at a couple different projections. So right now, this is that HRRR model that we show a lot. I'm going to force this to look at a couple different projections. We should be able to max reflectivity, and actually, I'm going to leave that off. And we're going to go to this one here. I think we can go let's go max updraft helicity probability. Okay, so this basically is going to look at what is the real likelihood we could be talking about significant storm rotation. See, we show that other storm rotation on there. If I delete that out of here though, the one I just plotted on a second ago does not have significant storm rotation showing up with that. So just to be crystal clear, that tells me that, again, it's a low confidence scenario that we'd be talking about that. So I'm going to force our projection here to then show us with the strike model, the rotation potential there, or the updraft helicity is what we call it, updraft helicity swath. There we go. We should be good on our swaths here, our rotation swaths. And you'll see that while it illustrates that there is some out there, right? The possibility to get some rotation, showing it all over the place. But what is it not showing at the top there, right? It's not showing high values of it. I'm going to look at a couple different color tables. Yeah, see, that doesn't even show up. So the takeaway is this. Our strike model shows, hey, whoa, maybe we see something rotating, but only up here north of Memphis do you even get a color beyond black, right? If I were to take and just kind of cut off the lowest couple of colors there, you'll notice that there's really not much out there in our area of concern, even on our strike model as well. So I think big takeaways of this. Number one, we're going to have some thunderstorms. Number 2, not impossible a couple could rotate. Number 3, am I expecting that we're doing extended, significant severe weather coverage today? No. But could we have something briefly produce some damaging wind gusts? Yes. Could we have something briefly show rotation and maybe prompt a tornado warning? Not impossible, but I would also say not exactly likely either. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So again, this is a fairly limited risk for severe weather. What I'm going to do, pop this back over to our severe risk map for a moment, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to actually read with you the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center on this threat today. So give me a moment to pull that up so we can kind of do that at the same time. So you'll get the jargon way of looking at this, and you'll get the back and forth, me arguing yay or nay that goes along with that as well. So Tennessee Valley, Lower Ohio Valley into the southeast, that would be up. A pronounced the upper level shortwave trough with attendant 70-90 knot mid-level jet will advance quickly eastward today across the upper Midwest and the Mississippi, Ohio, and Tennessee valleys. Let's start there. So in my show here, and I'm going to have to go in here real quick and undo any issues any changes I made here, else it'll mess up every show every day from now on. You want to revert these changes? Yes. So let's bring up the jet stream, which we should have at the bottom here, because that'll help us kind of tell this story. Vorticity jet stream. There we go. Okay. So they're talking about this big dip you see here. It's a fairly decent storm system kind of shifting through, right? The angle on it's not perfect for us, but this is, a very pronounced trough of low pressure, right? So that's what they're seeing. Okay. So now we're going to come back over here and we're going to pick up the discussion there. So this is moving through the upper Midwest. A deep surface low over northern Minnesota. So you can see where the reds are there. Again, that's the mid and upper level lift as well. So a fairly deep low pressure center there at the surface. So we're looking aloft here, but they're also talking surface. Go back a couple there. So there you go. Right with that. It's forecast to continue developing northeastward into Ontario, Quebec overnight with trailing cold front, that front we've been talking about, that's going to sweep southeastward over much of the lower Mississippi Valley. That would be us and the southeast. Low-level moisture return remains quite limited. We talked about that a minute ago as well, right? I just want to make sure they and we and they, us and them, everybody is on the same page. Lower level moisture return, that's what this represents here. This is that lower level moisture gradually working its way northward. The purple colors where we have the highest values of that down there in the Gulf. They're in the 70s, mid 60s south, low 60s versus 50s. So this is what we like to refer to as a limit. I-T-I-N-G factor. Why am I going to spell all this out? T-O-R. Man, you're going to see how bad my handwriting is here on this. That's unfortunate. Anyway, the moisture is a limiting factor. But anyway, let's go back to what we just said a second ago and kind of pick it up there. So their discussion. So yeah, low to mid 60s surface dew points are beginning to spread inland. Even so, wind fields remain quite favorable for thunderstorm organization, with ample low-level deep shear present, meaning the ability to get storms to rotate and stay organized is present. Current expectations are for low-topped line of convection, meaning we're not talking about big battle rotating thunderstorms, but ones that don't necessarily tap into the strongest winds aloft and anyway, they don't get as tall. Low top line of convection develop along cold front through this afternoon and evening, although instability, which is the fuel, which is part of what we're showing here, is expected to remain minimal with northward extent into the Tennessee, Ohio valleys, meaning really much north of us, not expected to see a ton. There is still potential for strong to severe gusts that will be convectively enhanced beyond the already strong background wind field. Some chance for tornado may also exist across parts of Mississippi and Alabama where greater instability and low-level moisture will reside. Given latest observational and guidance trends, and marginal risk has been included where the best potential for strong and damaging winds is apparent. Okay, and that's where it comes in with us. So takeaway here being everything we said so far is true. They completely agree with everything. Limiting factor will be moisture, and that combination of moisture and heating, what we refer to as instability. I do want to check the visible satellite here for a moment. Just kind of check and see. We do have some clearing. Okay, I might be a total liar when I said, well, it's not clear like that out in Rolling Fork. That looks fairly clear. I'll have to check with the storm chasers on that one to make sure that one's up there. I'm going to go back to that here in a second. Take a look, and I don't see anything moving there. I'm going to move the camera. Give me a moment. That's on the next page. Oh yeah, no, it's offline right now, unfortunately. Oh well. But I think the important number is right there at the top. That 62 for the dew point up there in Rolling Fork is highly important because that's kind of a sign of how much moisture is available. And it shows there's a lot more moisture there. I mean, you just compare that 62 there. Now we'll see if the Corinth camera will work as we showcase different extremes around the area. Nope, that one's definitely not working, but 57, that dew point. I know for sure Tupelo is working. Let's bring it back down to Tupelo then. And I want you to note the dew point on that there is about 55. So that's a big difference between the low 60s to the mid 50s. That's why it's kind of cooler. And notice the temperature as well. I'm in 57 here. Greenville should be working. So we'll pull up one that we know is working out there. And then we show that cloud cover, but 66. That's 10 degrees warmer. The dew point significantly higher as well. This altocumulus cloud, a side of more moisture and lift kind of moving into the Greenville area as well. And it is breezy. South winds about 17 miles per hour. That's not exactly calm, right? So that's kind of setting us up for, I think, some storms. They'll start developing out in the Delta and move in as we progress throughout the day. Okay, so all of that to say, let's go back here and let's bring it back to this model to kind of showcase how this all sort of plays out here. So again, there's the front. It's kind of what gives us the lift, and that'll get closer to us. Some isolated storms developing ahead of that. We're looking at 12:30 to say 1 o'clock or so. And then the combination of that front, and then of course what we have coming in there from Oxford and Winona as those kind of initial storms. There's just this spot here where I think we have just enough to get some of these thunderstorms to be heavier. Maybe 1 or 2 rotating thunderstorms, more likely to kick out a couple strong wind gusts. And I think even these low top storms, I think that's one good thing they pointed out, could force, if you get a downdraft, you could force some of the already strong winds aloft down closer to the surface. And so that could then enhance some of the gusty winds somewhat more. So that's kind of what we're seeing with this coming in peak timing. We back it up here for a second, probably 2 to say 6 to 7 p.m. That's basically the exact same time that we talked about last night. So most of this largely out of here by 7:30, 8 o'clock. So 2 to 8 o'clock today, we're watching that potential, obviously, very closely. We will continue to have, of course, live updates as necessary. Next live update, scheduled live update is 5 p.m. Now, will we do something before that? I think that's absolutely a possibility. If we end up getting something strong and severe, we'll be cutting in, we'll be talking about that. But we still do have some time before that is the case. And one thing I do want to probably reference here is we probably need to make sure that we have, a way to find out if we're, in danger, if we have issues there. And probably the best way to go ahead and do that is weather calling. We talk about it all the time. We've kind of referenced the fact that it is, one of those things that, helps to keep I'll pull out my phone, make sure I haven't missed anything from all of my folks behind the scenes here. From all of the folks at the TV station. Yeah, Maggie mentioning, this morning, she was shocked, and I agree with her, that we didn't have a level 1 risk with this today. I think we kind of expected to have it yesterday. They pulled it. So, I mean, I can't say that we're shocked at that at all to have a couple of these that are a little stronger out there, possibility for today. Let me go ahead and check, as I'll send it back over there to the chroma key here for a moment. I'm going to check our chat with all of you guys to make sure we haven't missed anything that you're interested in. No audio. Hold on. Check. Oh, I wonder if it went. Hold on. Give me a moment to check that audio issue you're mentioning, see if this has audio. Oh. Well, there you go. I'm glad you mentioned that didn't have audio. That's a major oversight on my part. I apologize for that. We got a lot of toys around here, making sure all the toys are set up correctly. We had an audio issue with the first cut in, and I think that might have been part of the reason why. So that should be fixed. I'm going to merge it over the top of that. Let's make sure it's good. We're going to send it back to Chroma, and we'll come back and make sure audio is fixed on that. That'd be bad during a severe weather event to not have audio there. And then we will click and merge, and there we go. Okay, so now we have audio. Okay, we fixed that. Let's see what else we got there. I'm glad someone mentioned that. Lost your audio. Appreciate that. Level more of 1 is just in case. Okay, let's talk about that. James Cheney said, is the level 1 just in case? It's a little bit more than that, but to a certain extent, that's not completely inaccurate. So the just in case, as far as that goes, is that no, I don't expect to have a lot of reports of severe weather out of this. I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't have hardly any. But if I put on the severe risk area as we have it outlined today, that level 1 out of 5 severe risk, right? This is just kind of that zone where we're going to have a few thunderstorms get a little heavier. But this always comes back to the number of reports. We expect to have a limited number of reports, meaning not very many, obviously. That's what the word limited means, right? So most cases, we probably will not have severe weather out of this, but maybe 1 or 2 reports a possibility. I'm going to figure out this jumping that it's doing there as well. That's really annoying me. But anyway, so a couple reports of severe weather possible out of this, probably not a lot of reports. So it's a little bit more than just in case, but it is to say that, I think mostly they will be non-severe. That answer hopefully answers that question. Let's bring back over here the visible satellite. What I am watching for, what we're going to be looking for over the course of this afternoon, and make this a 3-hour loop here, is we're just kind of watching this zone here where we've sort of cleared out Yazoo City toward Jackson. This is where, right there, Southwest Mississippi. Look at the last couple scans there. See, you have just a few of those dots getting going there. That's a sign that we're starting to see just a little bit more in the way of convection storms starting to try to form there. Let's see here. Let's see if we have a meso visible segment over us. Do we not? Where's that one at? Nope, that's up north. And then this one is out west. Nope, we don't have one today over us. So this is going to be as good as we're going to get on the visible satellite. And that's okay, still pretty good. But yeah, back out there, still watching toward Port Gibson, south of Vicksburg. That's kind of the beginnings of where we'll probably see some of these storms forming out there closer to Charleston. That kind of that first batch that we're tracking in there. So yeah, we'll be watching here over the next couple of hours. Hope that answered that question for you, James, there. Let's see what else we got here for as far as questions go for a moment. A lot of folks watching. We appreciate that. There's a way to get Mississippi Live Weather app radar to show farther out than 2 hours. Yes. So someone asking, is there a way to get the radar to go out longer than 2 hours? And so the answer is yes, in that so let me pull up the app. I don't have the greatest way to show you, just take my app and go on there. So if you hit the radar, right? We apologize that there are going to be more ads on there now because we've got to keep the lights on. And now we have the ability to do that. Okay, so you have all the different types of data here. Look at that. Look at that staying in focus-ish. Good enough. Okay, see where it says future radar, 24 hours? Go back to the screen here, right? So you hit the gear in the upper left-hand corner, right? And then you come down here and where it says future radar 24 hours, we'll tap that and then go back. And that way you can get the future radar through the day. Now I'll be honest, you know, that I don't always love the way these models show up on here. But you get a general sense as to the timing. So that's, what time is that? That's 4 p.m., 5, 6, 7. I would say that with that secondary line there, it's a little slow. Oh, you can't tell, it's chroma keyed. Hold on, we'll go over there. Okay, try this again. This one's not chroma keyed. See, green is green, except it's more blurry. Well, can't win to lose, right? Okay, so anyway, little slider at the bottom will help you get through that. But again, it's the gear in the upper left-hand corner, and that's where you choose national radar. I keep mine a lot of times on North Mississippi radar because it's a little higher resolution. It's the highest resolution, you know, radar day you're going to get in a local weather app. You'll have to be, you know, a custom radar app before you can get anything higher resolution than that. So anyway, yeah, so hopefully that answers that question there as far as that is concerned. Let's bring it back over here. See what else we got. So also here, looking over, curious, have you ever thought about broadcasting on antenna TV? Well, so to broadcast on antenna TV, we'd have to have somebody willing to carry the signal. There's also some things on what we do that make that a little more difficult just on the contracts with the vendors that we have behind the scenes. So we are looking at every avenue possible to try to spread out. We do have some options that we eventually will look into, but that's not something in the near term that's probably going to happen. Let's see here. When you had the last screen. I see Alex say, lost your audio. Okay, yeah, that was that a couple minutes ago. Okay. If that's all, I think we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. So we will, you know, have live broadcast as necessary if we need to add anything additional to what we have out there. Certainly a possibility we could have some things like that. Again, our next live broadcast will be coming up here at 5 p.m. But again, for the folks that might be watching us just on social media, you can pick up our app using the QR codes you see there on the screen for iOS and Android devices. Appreciate everybody for supporting us here at Mississippi Live and all our sponsors as well. Come back over here. I'll double check one more time. Make sure this works right. Still have audio. Look at that. Audio is working there. I'm going to try weather call over there. Make sure the audio is good on that as well. Audio is still good on that one over there. So good. Looks like everything is good to go here. So pull down that thing in the foreground and bring it back over here. Okay. Well, look, we worked out the kinks. That's okay. We've had so little severe weather, haven't had a lot of kinks to run into, but we'll get through it. Okay. Updates as necessary. Thank you for supporting, liking, subscribing, all those sorts of things. We'll see you come up later this afternoon if necessary.
When choosing a dentist for our family, Tupelo Smiles was the answer for us. They greet us with warm smiles right when we walk in the door, and they make us feel so welcome. We love Tupelo Smiles.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.